Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and today I have a quick, easy project where we're going to be able to use a piece of cork or a piece of leather or faux leather, and we only need a piece 3 inches by 6 inches. And what we're going to make is a wallet for cards. I will be working with this dark brown cork, and you can get cork all different thicknesses and finishes. And this particular one does have a fabric back to it. You can use leather or a faux leather, but what we want is a piece 3 inches by 6 inches. On the back of the cork, we need to find a center line and draw that center line. Over from that center line, find an 1.5 inch mark on both sides. And then using a ruler that has a line down the center, and it can be any size, we just need to match up the line until these corners hit the ruler. And draw that shape. So we have this little triangle, and cut that triangle out. From here we're going to do some top stitch rows before we sew it together. We will want to top stitch this V and top stitch these ends here. We need to top stitch at 1/4 inch and less. So my first row of top stitch, I'm going to do at that 1/4 inch. The second row will be less. So I will have 2 rows of top stitch along these 3 areas. Cork is very easy to sew, but I would recommend a heavier needle like a 90-14. In this case, I do have a leather needle, and that's the one I'm going to use. I'm also going to turn my stitches up a little bit so that they're larger at a 3. And when I do this top stitch, I need to leave long threads at the beginning and at the end because those threads are going to get tucked in. And you can use any color thread you'd like. So here's that top stitching done, and I have all of those threads coming out. I do not want to tie knots or back stitch because I want to have that clean look. So take a needle with a big hole in it, put those threads in, and then pull those threads through one of the stitches along the back, and I would recommend coming in instead of going out. So I'm just going to go through those 2 stitches and gently bring all of the threads in. So all of those threads are in there, and you can see how nice that front looks. And put a drop of Fray Check there. You can get all sorts of Fray Check. This just stops the seams from coming apart. It's sort of like a permanent glue for threads. You can sew over top of it, but it's just going to keep that there for me. And I'm going to do these to all of the ends. Once those ends have been glued in, I would recommend to let it dry. Glue only works after it's been dried, so you can always dry it with a hair dryer or with an iron. But if you're going to use an iron, be sure to cover it because this will get stuck on your iron. Once it's dried, I can trim off those threads on the back. This piece is now going to get folded in half. But before you fold it in half, test on that piece that you cut out. Some cork, when you fold it in half, has a tendency to want to crack along that fold. If that's the case, you need to wet this area or steam it. So test this little piece first. As a general rule, I'm just going to always steam it and make that hot and damp before I go to turn my cork. So for this, I'm going to heat up this area and steam it with the iron. And I don't need to put the iron right on top, just steam it with the iron just sitting a little bit above. If your test piece does not even work with steaming, you can soak your entire piece in water. And let it soak for a good hour so the cork gets saturated with water, and that way when you fold it, it won't crack at all. So test your cork to see which method of folding works best. Once that's folded in half, we're going to close off those 2 seams with rows of stitching. The short seam, we're going to be able to do 2 rows of stitching, just like we did the top stitching, leaving those threads out. The long side, start up at the top, stitch down, over, and come back. That way we have the threads all up at the top. Those top threads, we're going to put into that needle and slide those threads through and come out to the other side. So we have all those threads coming out, and that's going to leave that top edge looking nice. Just open that up a little bit, put a dot of Fray Check in between those layers. So we need to bury all of those threads. That is the entire wallet, but I would recommend to round off all of these little pointed edges. Stay away from the threads and just kind of round them out a bit. The wallet is now ready to be used. We have an opening, and those cards will slide right inside. This little cut end is going to help us push the cards out as we need. That cork is very durable. It looks nice from both sides. And if you wanted to, you could fold up a couple of bills of money and stick them inside. This is definitely a thin little wallet. It would be great for a pant pocket, or if you're traveling and you only need to bring a couple of cards. And all we need to start off with is 3 inches by 6 inches. And you could always do some embroidery here before you begin. I do hope you give it a try, and thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe and come on back. Let's see what little things we're making in the sewing room next time. Bye for now.